Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 12:30 p.m. on the 8th of January 2025, Thursday. So it's a lovely windy morning, afternoon now. The sun is shining. We had a little bit of a sun shower and I was worried that it was going to rain, but I think apart from we might get the occasional spot of showers, I think it's going to be a lovely day. So I've brought the birdie boys outside. They're very happy to be out in the garden. And Rati has not long ago left, did the weekly clean, and exciting news, Abdul and his co-worker, I don't know his co-worker's name, came and mowed the lawns, so everything's looking schmick again and lovely, and I'm so relieved and happy when that job is done because it causes me a lot of stress in summer months when the grass shoots up and it gets too long and looks messy, and just and then I worry, about it getting too long for the men to be able to cut it back, because this is an immense lawn to look after and maintain. So, but anyway, everything's looking lovely and everything's peaceful, and I feel a lot more contented now that one stressor's been eliminated. I was going to go to Bunnings and pick up a few things like potting mix and orchid mix and scoria for my pond, but I decided it's too hot. I'm actually a bit tired because I was up during the night having very bad trauma nightmares. So and I thought, well, I'll just take it easy today. I'll go when I'm ready to, when it cools down, and maybe a little bit in the late afternoon I'll go then, or it's late night shopping tonight, so I could even go in the evening. But I'm kind of frustrated because I haven't been out of this house, and I was actually looking forward to going to Bunnings, but my mood shifted and I thought, no, I'm better off to sit in the garden with my lovely little boys, birds, and read stories to you on YouTube and see how I feel when I complete that little task. And it's really lovely on the garden. I've started putting sunscreen on though, because even though I'm under the shade of the trees, I seem to be copping a fair bit of sun exposure, which is not good with my proclivities to grow cancers. I've still got to find or possibly go back to the previous skin doctor, although he wants to charge like a wounded bull now, because I've got lots of skin cancers on the back of my shoulders that need to be checked and possibly carved out, and I'm dreading it. I've put it off for as long as possible, but hopefully it's nothing to worry about. Sometimes I worry for nothing because, sometimes I go and they just say, no, that's nothing to worry about, and they leave it. So I guess I don't need to stress, but it really should be checked. I missed the last 2 checks. I'm supposed to be checked every 3 to 6 months, so there is that. Anyway, today is a day when I'm going to not worry and enjoy my garden with my beautiful YouTube subscribers, audience, likers and commenters. I appreciate you supporting me in my journey on this planet, spiralling as we all are into infinity and beyond. And this blue spiraling marble, spiraling on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Yesterday afternoon, about 5ish, for the first time in about 3 months, possibly longer, can't remember how long it's been, but I'd stopped doing my regular afternoon walk around the block, which is only 10 minutes, but 10 minutes a day, 7 times a day, 70 minutes of exercise, people there. Anyway, for whatever reason that makes sense to no one, not even me, I'd stopped doing that. And the only exercise I was getting was when I do my shamanic tribal moshing wild woman dance for, the bands I follow. So I thought, well, I'm not dancing anymore at this point in time. It's been nearly a month. I better rattle my dags and start taking up that little bit of walking again, otherwise my body's going to shut down. I've got enough health issues as it is without giving up completely on exercise. So I talked myself into it, took a little bit of doing, but not too much, because I actually felt like I wanted to walk, like it was important that I walked right then and there. So here's the weird thing that happened. Weird but lovely thing that happened. So I go on my walk around the block, and the neighbourhood's very quiet. No one looks at me, no one speaks to me anymore. You know what? I don't fucking care. What's the point in upsetting yourself over it? So I carried on, and I did look over at Arvel's house because sometimes she has a chat with me, but it's been, as I said, months since I've stopped by and said hello to her because I haven't been walking. And I thought, well, I won't bother. I could see she had her TV going anyway, and it was, getting close to dinner time. So I've got a fair bit of noise because my neighbours are demolishing things in their house. So anyway, so I carried on past Arvel's house, and I'm facing north, and up Turquoise Street facing north, and I look up, and I had been feeling a little bit sad actually. I thought this world's become so empty and NPC and treacherous and fucking ugly, and so I was sort of shuffling along thinking about that the only people I have regular contact with now are my lovely cleaning lady and my psychiatrist, who I usually see once a fortnight, but because it was the Christmas holidays I didn't see him for an entire month. It's amazing, your attachments you have to people, how it can really cause you distress when they're just not available anymore, And I thought to myself, well, I'll just have to get used to that. This is the hill I'll have to die on. Stand in my own truth and integrity and honour, even though everyone has left my life one way or the other. So I thought, well, what will I do? So I keep walking, and this wall of kind of, not grief, but kind of mute acceptance hit me in my chest, and I just thought, there's nothing you can do about it. This is the world that was gifted you. This is an external manifestation of hate and atrophy and cowardice brought on by the COVID epoch. And I thought, well, there's nothing you can do. You didn't sign up for that. You didn't comply with it. You didn't go along to get along. You didn't weaken. You didn't atrophy. You stood in your own courage and honour, like Odysseus strapped to his mast while the Sirens tried to lure him to his death, by the way. You held strong, and you can be proud of yourself, Tanya Aarons. So I keep walking with this weight on my chest, and I look up to the sky, and on the skyline above the trees was a whole row of clouds. If you're interested to look at that photograph and you're not blocked by me because you haven't behaved like a feckin' asshole. I deem you a defeated enemy. Yes, they exist. If you can access it, you can go on my Instagram. I've posted the photos up there of the amazing clouds. So I look up and I see this cloud shaped like a woman, like a goddess or a woman, could be either or. And very distinctly you can see even in the cloud, they look like they were drawn by grey graphite pencil shadings, but her eyelashes were long and white and they really stood out. Anyway, I got such a shock seeing that because it was like God had painted a picture for me in the very clouds. So I stopped and I paused and I looked and I thought, I actually put my hand to my mouth with surprise. Next to the faces of people, there was what looked like a bear, but its snout was a little bit elongated, but I decided it's meant to represent a bear. So I took a photo of that and I circled it because some people don't have very artistic imaginations. They don't always see what it is I'm trying to show them on my Facebook or Instagram. So I circled the bear and I circled the group of people that were looking on with the beautiful woman with the white long eyelashes. It was so clear. I showed it, the photograph, to Rati this morning and I said, what do you see when you look at the clouds? She said, there's a woman there with beautiful white eyelashes. I went, oh, you see it too? Yes, she said. I went, oh, good, because like sometimes I wonder if I imagine these things, you know. But anyway, it's up there on Instagram if anyone wants to go and have a look at it under my Tanya Desiree Aaron's account. And it's astonishing, people of Earth. And when I looked carefully, it wasn't just the girl looking on with her eyelashes sort of facing side on. There were other faces, like male faces too, that all sort of merged into each other. And I don't know what it's supposed to mean other than interdimensional entities playing tricks with our minds perhaps, or just pareidolia as the scientists would explain it away. But it was just so powerful and beautiful and a bit awe-inspiring. So I carried on with my walk. I thought I'll walk a bit longer because I haven't been walking and it certainly won't kill me. Although I had struggled, you know, with my breath and I didn't bring my asthma inhaler, so I was like gasping as I do, dragging my considerable voluptuous assets along the way. And I thought, no, I'll walk to the path that runs, you know, between the forest and the back of the last houses here, the back of my street. I'll do that little bit extra walk, which if I'm not well or if I'm particularly lazy, I don't always do that. I sometimes shorten it by going straight up my street. And I'll go one small block back. So I'm walking up the I call it the walkway, you know, the path that leads to goes up to the dog park and then through Wrights Hill Reserve. And I walk up to that and I join with the walkway and I'm walking along the houses, the back of the houses up that path. And something sort of said, look up. And I looked up and high up in the tallest trees, I found where the scrub turkeys go to roost at night, to sleep for the night, in these trees just behind my house. My house is the third house back from that walkway. And there, above the pathway, up high in the trees, were 2 or 3 scrub turkeys. I was like, right, I always wondered where they go to sleep at night, because they spend, you know, sometimes hours in my garden, especially working on the mound for their babies. but they don't sleep here in the trees. And I always thought that was a bit curious and wondered why, but I guess they feel safer being close to the forest. So I took another photograph of that, put that up on my Instagram, and I came home, and the last, 100 metres or so coming home, always a struggle, because especially if I don't have my inhaler with me, I was like, and I thought, this is actually kind of psychosomatic and nonsensical, because I can dance for 3, sometimes 4 hours on 2 Jack Daniels and attitude, and dance and dance and dance without getting out of breath, but walk around the block, I'm shuffling and struggling and gasping for air. It's not logical, people of Earth. But then, of course, I live in quite a hilly area, so I think I'm just walking level on a level road, but I'm actually going up and down, and it's not all that obvious to me until I get to the last kind of hill. So, but I'm so proud of myself that I took myself walking again, because actually now it's summer, I should be swimming every day, which I haven't been doing. Only that one lovely day when Jared and I went to Kuchi-Mudlo Island, and I should be doing that little walk every day, at least that one small short walk for 10 minutes. But it was very strange that for 3 or 4 months I just had no interest or desire to walk around at all, and more and more my neighbourhood just started to feel like a giant fucking tomb, and people not being particularly friendly kind of enforces that feeling. It's really fucking ghastly. But anyway, hopefully I'll feel inspired later on to walk again, if nothing else to see what the spirits make the clouds look like, to send me messages of hope and inspiration, and show me that I'm not really alone, people of Earth. The faces appearing in the clouds were, even Rati agreed, were quite astonishing. So on that note, let us continue on, we're 17 minutes in, with chapter 28. Chapter 28. Oh, before I continue on, the other lovely thing was I cleaned my fish pond filters yesterday. Every Wednesday, I try to do it on a Wednesday. Once a week I clean the filters for my goldfish pond, and I topped up the water. It didn't need much of a top up because we had a bit of rain, so that was good. But I looked down, and my 2 little goldfish have grown a lot actually, and they were happy swimming just at the brim of where the water meets the air. I could tell by their movements, they were feeding on the algae, and they seemed so joyful too. And I thought, I haven't seen them come up close to the top in a while actually. So yesterday was a very magical and beautiful day, and even my little goldfish were happy. So I thought I'd share that with you, because it's important that we know these things, people of Earth. It really is. It seems a bit childlike, but when you attune to nature and you observe all the behaviours of the birds and even the fish, and see the pareidolia, or the shapes forming in the clouds, and like right now, feel the wind on your face. Life really is beautiful. It truly is, in spite of everything. Maybe to spite everything. But yes, last night I had a horrific nightmare about someone coming to shoot me in the face with a bolt-action shotgun. And I'm sure that's just a post-traumatic response to, still playing in my subconscious, the shooting at Bondi, and the way people that I thought I was close to did not even bloody acknowledge the horror of it. And the last of my close friends seems to have gone underground, laying low. Haven't heard from them. So it's all been a bit harrowing and grueling. But it's 2026 and it's another year, and same shit, different day. But I'm open to the multiverse to bring me good, kind, honouring people, and perhaps life-affirming, sustaining, true friendships, people who are kind and courageous and honouring. Amen. Vasila. Right, just going to pour another drink. Yes, the garden's looking very beautiful now. Very beautiful. I've decided if I ever won a large enough lottery, I don't gamble very often, people are there, but I've decided fell over. Are we still filming? Yes. I've decided that if I were ever to win lotto, it would have to be a very large lotto though, because it'd have to be enough to afford, to maintain and pay for rates and insurances and things like that. But I've decided I would actually buy this house and land from Housing Commission if I won a big enough lotto, and I would try and keep the trees here, not allow them to bulldoze all the trees like they do when they build new houses, which is also evil, killing all the beautiful trees. For what? For someone's greed. But I would try and maintain as many of the trees here as I possibly could, although I worry that they would have to chop down the golden rain tree. No, if I had that much money, I'd make them just build around it. Fuck it, that tree stays, people are there. I'm determined. But anyway, this is a fantasy anyway, because the likelihood of me winning a big lottery is zero. Well, not completely zero, but the odds aren't real good, are they? But anyway, I was musing about that. I thought, if I won the lotto, I'd buy this house and land. I'd build a 2-storey, house, bigger house than what I have now. I'd build outwards, because there's enough room to build up in the back, which would cure some of my lawn mowing problems, because it would take up some of that land. And then I'd put a big swimming pool in the back here, which was always my plan. That's why I've always left it empty. And live happily ever after until I get too old and eventually die. My fantasy and my dreaming, my psychedelic dreaming, was always that I would buy a house in Byron Bay by the sea. But I guess if I win a very, very large lottery, I could do both. Have my house in Byron Bay and build up a beautiful house here and have both. Why not? When you're that wealthy, you can do anything, can't you, people of Earth? But look, I'd love to build outwards and upwards, and then I could have a big, beautiful bathroom with a step-down bathtub. That would be wonderful. Oh my goddess. And a bigger bedroom with a walk-in wardrobe and possibly an ensuite as well. But I guess if you've got a big, luxurious bathroom, you don't really need an ensuite. But why not? Imagine I've got $30 million, can do whatever. And I'd have a big kitchen, fully appointed kitchen, my own studio separate to, you know, the bedroom, and I think I'd get another bedroom just for the birdies. You'd have your own bedroom, boys. Oh, Mama T, we don't want to be shoved on our own in some bedroom. We want to be with you. Okay, but imagine Mama T's really, really rich people, birdies, what would we do? We're being buzzed by a native bee. Isn't that delightful? We just want to be with you, Mama. And I'd get a big, much bigger lounge room, and I'd have it all done beautifully, good quality materials. Oh, it'd be wonderful. Bo says, he's looking at me, he says, Mama, you're dreaming again, Mama. You gotta wake up. Wake up, Mama. Wake up. Oh, look, little Bo, sometimes the psychedelic dreamers, we need to dream, you know. It's good for us. Keeps our minds active and our imagination and creativity alive in our souls. Okay, Mama, you do whatever you need to do to be happy. He's such a sweet bird. Right, I'm back from outer space with that look upon my face. Chapter 28. Oh, and think of that, birdie boys. I could get you cared for 12 months. They wouldn't like that. They've gotten used to me already. But I could travel the world and see all the sacred spaces and the tourist attractions, but go into all the, you know, magical spaces from cultures all across the world. That's my main dream. Probably take $1 million to do that, go from place to place to place. But I'd like to see Machu Picchu. I'd like to see Paris and London, New York and Los Angeles, maybe San Francisco too. Then I'd like to go to Mexico and Chile and Peru, because Machu Picchu. And I'd like to see Teotihuacan, which I think is in Mexico. Pretty sure it is. And I could go to Egypt and see the Gaza pyramids. Oh my goodness. And maybe I'd even, by the time I won the lotto, got to see the labyrinth. It's a nice fantasy, isn't it? Anyway, I'd probably go and have a look at Hamburg, only because it was my mother's birthplace, and, you know, just out of curiosity more than anything else. And where else could we go, people? I want to see Stonehenge. My daughter went there, she said it was boring, but, you know, I want to see it with my own eyes. Be present in sacred spaces. Anyway, we'll carry on with the story. I've just gone on a worldwide trip with you. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? What's the weather like in Machu Picchu this time of year? Probably bloody cold still. Are they in the southern hemisphere? They might be as hot as we are. But it's up on a mountain, isn't it? High up in the mountains. I think I'd go to Rome too. I'm not Catholic, obviously, I'm Jewish, but it still would be interesting to see Rome, and maybe Naples and Florence. And Sicily would be nice to see. And Sardinia, where the giants are. And I'd have to go to Ireland. My daughter went to see the Giant's Causeway because I insisted she went, and the Hill of Tara. I'm glad she got to see those things. I'd love to see those places. And with that kind of money, that kind of wealth, you could just go wherever you felt called, wherever you felt, wake up one day, I need to be in such and such a place, and you could just travel there and go. That must be the greatest joy of being extremely wealthy, is the freedom to be able to travel to anywhere on earth you want to go and see everything and connect with everything and meet people. You wouldn't tell them that you're wealthy, though. They'd have no frickin' idea who they're dealing with. And it's safer that way too, because you wouldn't get robbed then. Sometimes there's great wealth in not having anything to lose, people of Earth. It's a paradox. But yes, one day, if the gods allow it and I live long enough, some of my dreams might come true. Hello, Kermy boy. He's so handsome. Do you want to see him? He's climbing up the cage, looking at me. What you doing, Kermy? What you doing, little beau? Kermy's having a drink. Is that good, Kermy? Yes. Right, all right. I promise I'll start for real this time. 31 minutes. The Mama T and her musings and her drifting. Kunama lay belly down on a mosaic of pink and grey marble, resting his chin on his fist. The better to watch the black oak door that was the hidden exit to Claudius's temple. Around him was an ornate walled garden that backed onto the slaves' quarters of a centurion's house. Already the place was overgrown with ivy and a strangling of early bindweed scattered through, with white, unopened flowers curled tight as ropes. The wall was solid and not meant to be climbed. The flints and cobstones that formed it had been bedded too deep to make handholds, and it was capped with round mortar with sharpened flints along the spire. 9 strikes with a log-splitting axe had broken the lock to the outer gate, letting the she-bear flood in and arrange themselves in battle order amongst the unthrifty olive trees and grapevines, and the twinned green marble fountains on which boy youths rode dolphins across an endlessly dry sea. Kunama lay in the shade of the second of these. On either side, his warriors passed water skins newly filled from the well in the ruined hospital. All of them were burned or wounded somehow. Kunama's groin still ached from the missed thrust of a blade that had nearly cost him his manhood. Ula, who lay nearest, was burned along the length of one forearm, but otherwise whole. She passed him a water skin, and he drank and handed it back. The door to the temple remained stubbornly shut. High as a man and 5 times as wide, it was made of seasoned oak with leather hinges studded with iron to make them less easily cut, designed for function as an escape route or a secret entry, as if half of Camuludunan had not known it was there from the day it was first built. The sun moved higher and the patches of shade grew smaller. Presently, when the flies became too bothersome, those warriors who were not yet of the she-bear, and so knew less of discipline, began to take bets who could first pull over one of the green marble fountains. After a while, they forgot to whisper, and the bets became more serious. 3 squared up to the fountain and spat on their hands. Each had shaved the hair on his head in an arc above both ears and set the centre line with lime paint. One had cut off his own ear, or had it done for him. Kunamar did not know the names of any of them. The largest set himself at the marble, hauling so that the veins bulged on muscles that knotted like an ox at the plough. Others shouted encouragement. The marble did not move. Under cover of the noise, Ulla said, "Your mother left the temple battle early. I saw her let a woman go when she could have killed her." "Everyone saw that," Kunamar said. "Did she do it so we would see, so that there would be no doubt that she no longer wants to lead us?" In the midst of the battle, Kunamar's fear had been exactly that, tainted with the shame of it and the panic that, without his mother, the war host would falter. He had missed a clean kill because of it, and had to finish the man later, when the battle had passed over and there was time to come back. Lying now in the shade of an olive tree, he saw it in a better light. I think that's exactly why she did it. By leaving when victory was certain, she made sure no one would suffer for her loss. And she's left the way open for her successor to take over in the final parts of the war. The balance in the host is even between Valerius and me. I think she truly does not know which of us to support. She has left the freedom to prove ourselves in front of the full host. She has left us the freedom to prove ourselves in front of the full host. Sometimes it's a bit like that though, isn't it? In a spiritual war or a battle for your very life and soul, you have to prove yourself in front of the full host. And when they're worm-tongued and poisoned by evil doers, it's a battle you can't win because they already made their mind up about you based on lies and filth and deception and other people's piss-weak agendas and motivations. There's nothing you can do but walk away, head high, and leave them to their own ultimate self-destruction and demise. Because what goes round comes round. Karma's a bitch, and the Mamati knows when it's time to move on, when missions have been completed, and she doesn't lick her wounds too long or grieve too long, except when they use people to fake love and fake friendship and That was a cesspit beyond words, but it's their cesspit of their creation, and now they shall sit in their own shit and piss while I carry on alone, happy, as I came and left, clean and clear. With harm to none, and competition with none, so it was done. And the gods know my intentions were sweet and loving, and generous and kind, and a bit idealistic and romantic, but there was nothing to be ashamed of. I have no shame in their game, people of earth. A clear conscience is the greatest gift a woman can have. Ulu said, it must be hard for a woman to choose between her brother and her son, and for Sigfa the same. She admires Valerius for its crow horse and how he can fight with it. Both of them need a reason to choose one way or the other. We can give it. Since the defeat of the 9th, Connemara had tried to see it like that. Here, now, with the prospect of a quite spectacular victory at hand, it was easiest. The wiriest of the 3 youths succeeded in pulling over the marble fountain by dint of tipping it a little and kicking a stone under the base to hold it off balance, while he swung all his weight on the scalloped green lip of the bowl, which hit the larger grey slabs around it and shattered into shards sharp as knife blades that sprayed out in a wide arc. Cursing softly, Connemara, we're a bit squiff, aren't we? Just push us over a little bit. That's it. Cursing softly, Connemara leaned to his right to a lanky Trinovanti youth who had known the way to the garden. Tell them to keep well clear of the broken marble if they don't want to cut their feet when the door opens. Pass it along the line. He watched the flow of the message as head nodded to darker or fairer head and away again. To Ulla he said testily, Valerius would have stopped them pulling the fountain over in the first place. And they would have learned nothing except to resent him for spoiling their wager. Your way is not necessarily the lesser. I think it's kind of an ugly thing to vandalise such a beautiful piece of sculpture or art, a beautiful marble fountain. I mean, what fucking peasants were they anyway? But that's Baudelaire talking. She would have been horrified that they did that. Watching a little Indian minor bird up on my gutter and looking for something to eat up there. The message had reached the last of those in range of the scattered razor stone, when a lock was turned in the dark oak door and a bolt jerked back and a beam thrown aside and a hand's breadth of solid oak, as high as a man and 5 times as wide, slammed back onto the cob and flint of the garden wall. A hand's breadth, that's how thick that doorway was. Maybe wider because I've got quite largish hands, but men's hands are bigger, aren't they? Some men's hands are. Some men, like Donald Trump, have tiny, tiny hands. Anyway, not my monkey, not my circus, thank the goddess for that. Konama had time to shout, "Hold the line!" and feel Ulla at his shoulder before havoc flew at him in the shape of the fiercest battle he had ever imagined. The veterans who charged from the room behind the door were lean to the point of emaciation, unshaven and filthy, with burn marks florid on their faces and forearms. But their leather armour was supple and their blades honed, and they had the tight, dense set of men who have known each other for decades and can trust the surety of each other's presence. What a wonderful feeling that must be. Men who fought beside you and alongside you, knowing you can trust. Well, I have 2 people left that I trust. Blessed be to all the gods. Right. Like the Spartan heroes of Thermopylae, or the sacred band of Thebes, these were men who dedicated themselves to war and never let themselves go. For days, Konama had lain on the drying turf above Camulodunum and watched a full century of veterans practice their daily manoeuvres. When the Trinovante informant had come with news that a certain group met nightly in a hidden shrine at the back of the temple, he had known without question who they were and how many. All he had needed from her was the location and the extent to which they had stored their armour in advance. This he had been given explicitly. They will have everything they could want or need. I cleaned the room for them, and every part of it is hung with racks of armour, except for the length of one wall, which is lined with gravestones, carved to mark their honoured dead. Sorry, I'm picking up messages from Spirit and I'm pushing it away because I don't really enjoy them distracting me while I'm reading People of Earth. The veterans came out in a wedge, aimed at the thickest part of Konama's line. They killed 3 of the younger Iceni before the door crashed back against the wall. A part-shaved head fell and cracked, severed cleanly by the speed of the men's passing and the ferocity of the leader's stroke. A dozen other youths fell back, their war howls croaking to nothing. The true she-bear had faced a wedge at the watchtower, knew how to deal with it. They had Valerius to thank for that. He had made them practice through the winter. Remembering those who knew found each other in the throng and made pairs or threes or fives and pressed their shoulders together so they could act as one. Almost want to vomit, the energy is so intense. It's come out of nowhere, hasn't it? I'm reading to the people of Earth, go back to the light, or if you are not of the light, go back to your original source spirit. I'm not here to communicate with you right now. I'm providing a service, reading beautiful, interesting stories to people on the internet. They stepped sideways. Oh, we read that. Did we read that? I'll repeat it. Sorry. It's really distracting for me, as you can imagine. Yes, my Kermie. He's talking too, as if he can see the entity. Who are you talking to, little man? They stepped sideways beyond the sweep of the wedge and through spears and then fragments of broken marble the size of fists at the legs of the leading men. A handful tripped and were killed as their shields sagged. One ran straight into Kunama's spear, swung horizontally like a staff so that the haft broke his neck. The Romans had been a century, a full 80 men. In that first charge, they were reduced by less than a dozen. The remainder abandoned their fallen and split into their tent parties as readily as if they still slept each night in marching camp, not in their gilt-roofed villas. They made squares, two to a side facing outward, with shields held as impenetrable barriers and swords poking through. Unlike the men of the Ninth, they did not stand still inviting attack, but came on holding their squares, killing more of Kunama's warriors as they did so. "We need slingers," Ulla shouted it, running from the path of the oncoming death. She paused to hurl a fist-sized piece of marble. It bounced uselessly off a shield. They had no slingers, who were all with Valerius, paired with the better slingers of Mona. Picking off defenders, inside the vast space of the temple. Akunamar shouted, "Don't let them get to the gate." He had said that before as they lay planning in the grey dusk. "If they get out of the garden, they'll come at the temple from behind. We'll lose hundreds before they're stopped." His followers had listened to him then. Faced with the ferocity of the veterans' onslaught, very few heard him now. Ula was close, and Skiros and a scattering of others who had fought with them at the barriers on the first day of the city's assault. Kunamar raised his knife and howled his mother's name. More struggled to join him, perhaps 20 in all. The gate. He ran without waiting to see if they followed. By the skip of their shadows ahead of him, he knew that they had, and that too, at least, had been too slow and had fallen. 15 lived to reach the gate. Spread out, make 2 lines. Kunamar swept his arms wide. His warriors were slow, white-eyed, and panting. Those who had fought at the barriers without fear found themselves undone now by the veterans and their methodical brutality. Still the days of drilling above the city worked. 15 made 2 lines and blocked the gate. Akunamar shouted, "Ula, Skeros, go out through the gate, close it and wedge it. Find Valerius, bring him back to help." They turned to leave. A part of him exulted that his leadership at last carried sway, and the need to obey him overrode the need to stay. A greater part of him broke apart at the loss. He wanted to say something, and there was no time. 3 tent parties of veterans had already formed an opposite line and were advancing at a shuffling run. He could smell the sourness of ill-fed breath and the unwash of their bodies and the sleek new oil on their leather armour. Shadows came and went as the gate opened and shut behind him. Something close to gratitude led Kunamar focus his intent on the veteran's leader, who advanced in the centre, opposite him. The man's teeth were foul, and he had shaved with something rough, so that the skin was blotchily red on his chin and cheeks. Between, patches of black hair sprouted through. He could not have eaten a proper meal in 3 days at least, but he danced on the balls of his feet, and when he raised his blade, it was with a certainty of killing that Kunamar had never met before, except perhaps in Valerius, and then it had not been directed at him. The man coming at him grinned. The air became fetid with old and new sweat. Kunamar spoke the ninth name of the she-bear and set his intent entirely on his enemy. Free of fear, he raised his shield and rammed it onto the incoming blade, twisting to make a gap in the shield wall opposite. His own knife curved in an arc that should have ended in the other man's bowels. And did not, because Ulla was there with her spear and had stabbed at a white flash of face beneath the helmet. Her scream or his split the air. "Ulla!" Kunomar's howl soared louder. "Get out! Find Valerius!" "Don't need to." Ulla was still alive. She danced back, leaving her spear. "Already here." He had no time to look up or around. The fighting was as fierce as he had ever seen or imagined. The 24 men of the veteran line fought on for the gate as if their honour and their lives depended on it. They failed to reach it, but each took at least one of the war host with him as he died. Slowly, amidst the miracle of his own continued survival, Kunomar came to notice that there were far more warriors in the garden than had come with him, and that a small proportion of them had shaved their heads in an arc above the ears or pasted white lime in their hair. When a slingstone passed him and killed the man who most immediately threatened his life, his battle-slowed mind realized why. As he fought forward, away from the gate, and heard it opened, and tasted clean air in the stifling heat, and felt bodies slide past him on into the garden, and then caught a glimpse of the black oak door and saw yet more warriors pouring through that, he knew both relief and frustration equally, which was not a new feeling, and far less welcome than the sweet, unhampered clarity of battle. The fighting slowed, and it became clear to Kunomar that he was no longer needed. Fresher arms than his took on the last 24 Romans and forced them back against the wall, and began the slow, dangerous task of killing. He was leaning against the second of the 2 marble fountains when a cool voice he knew and loathed said loudly enough for others to hear, "That was well done, son of the Boadicea. It would have gone hard for all of us if they had broken out and come into the temple at our backs." "Valerius." Kunomar turned slowly. His whole body shuddered with exertion and the aftershocks of combat. "Has my mother returned to the field of battle? Would I be here if she had?" Valerius, too, was grey and slow. A wound on his forearm bled freely, and he had a shining blood bruise the size of a fist on the opposite elbow, with the flesh already swelling on either side of it. Kunamar said, "So we need to talk." They had always known it would come to this, or to more than this. Evidently, Valerius smiled crookedly. "I would suggest we had better go elsewhere, where fewer ears are listening. Shall we see what the veterans kept on the other side of their black oak door?" And thus concludes today's offerings of Boadicea by Amanda Scott, Dreaming the Serpent Spear. I'll be back tomorrow with chapter 29. Have a beautiful, blessed day wherever you are in the space-time continuum. Remember to hold your line, keep fighting, fight with love, fight with peace, fight with contentment, fight with courage, fight with joy and delight, because happiness, ultimately, people of Earth, is the best revenge. Fight with song lines of the land upon which you stand, wherever you are on this beautiful earth. Fight with poetry, music, art, philosophy, science. Fight with your breath, fight with your soul intact. And remember, as always, to never ever let the bastards grind us down. Shalom, salam, peace. Bye for now, people of Earth. From Titania's realm at sacred space, where even the clouds form beautiful artworks to show me that the gods are indeed listening, watching, and on rare occasions intervening. Blessed be.